Hey, we're glad to be back with you. This is number 48 in our podcast, and we've been gone for a little bit. We've been busy behind the scene, and I know that my friend Mike has been busier than I have as we're working on getting Experience in Revelation launched, which, by the way, we really do have a firm date this time. We're going to be launching on May 3rd, so be looking for that. But one of the things we've been wanting to come back and have some discussion with you about really the whys behind some of the reasons we're doing this whole project. I think sometimes maybe that's missed by people. We're not
By the
doing
way,
this,
this is
you know.
not scripted.
Yeah, well,
We're just taught. This is actually pretty raw
this is our
because
podcast.
we don't. Well, a lot of times we really know where we're going with the whole conversation, but this is how do you take a house and build a new foundation underneath it once the house is already up? That's part of how challenging this whole project has been,
Right.
really from the very beginning. For me personally, as I have grappled with what in the world does revelation mean, and why is everyone so frightened or confused by what is in this book? Is that God's strategy to drive people crazy? You need to have charts and graphs and chutes and ladders, or you'll never get it. Verses from this obscure place. That just does not seem like God to me, and that's part of kind of the impetus to dig and to think and to ponder, really for more than a decade, trying to figure out what makes better sense than what we've been told.
Right. And there is not a sense of where either Mike and I are denying the mystery of God and the fact that God's wisdom and his abilities are far greater than ours are, and that there are not things in scripture that are hidden that this side of heaven,
Right.
quite frankly, we will never understand. I mean, because if you want to do that, then somebody explain to me death and how all that works, in the mystery of God's providence, if you will. So we don't want to go there, but there's that dynamic of which we looked at this, and Mike looked at this particularly in such a dynamic of that this just doesn't make sense. It never made sense to me either. And
So
one
it's
of the
yeah,
and one
here's
of the
the struggle that I had. I'm a churchman, okay? Unapologetically, I belong to the church. I'm a scholar. I'm a student of history. I read theology for fun. And the problem
that's
is,
just
I
wrong.
know, just wrong. It's
That's
just wrong.
just
But
wrong.
the problem is, very, very smart, rooted, deeply founded people hold to allegorical or historical or preterist or futurist. And especially in today's world, the futurist view, this is the end of the world.
Oh man, it
Jesus
is
is
off the
coming
charts.
back.
Off
The
the charts.
sinners are going to get what's coming to
Yep,
them.
right in the neck.
The Christians are going to ascend into heaven, and we're going to all get glory. And so in my mind, how do I mentally push back those dominant views to let revelation speak for itself? Eventually, that's the phrase that I began to use. I want to let revelation
Right,
speak for itself. I want
right,
God to speak revelation so
right,
that I hear what's there without automatically believing what I saw on a chart, what I
right,
read in a graph, what I
right,
read in my New International, my King James, my Schofield Bible that tells me absolutely this is what it means. It's not, I'm not talking about arrogance and rebelliousness and throwing everything off. I wanted revelation to speak for itself.
right,
And that was hard
right.
to have that mental pushback, so that every time I read the vials or the thunder and lightning or the dragon, that I was told what that means, and mentally being able to say, really? Is that really what it means? That's what's so hard about this project. Like dragon, every version of the Bible except for 2 translates dragon, dracon, as dragon. And so you have, this dinosaur looking thing, fire breathing, wings at its shoulders, big claws, red, 7 heads, 10 horns, all that, blah, 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 blah. And I was told by responsible scholars, churchmen, teachers, my own professors, it's a dragon. 2 versions say serpent. And how do you mentally push back and say, wait a minute, maybe not?
Right.
Maybe it doesn't mean that.
Right. And that brings us back to what we were speaking about off camera before we started here today, was just the concept of pushing back against that idea of hope that is gotten so convoluted in, I believe, in our discussion, I can safely say we both believe this idea of the hope of the believer in Revelation is that, you know what, everybody, you're right, everybody else is going to get it. Those sinners, all those pagans, everybody who's evil, they're going to finally get it. And our hope is that they're going to finally get it.
And Jesus is going to come and clean up the whole world.
He's going to clean up the mess and
sweep off the tabletop, get rid of everything evil. And those of us who are good people, we get heaven with streets of gold, and it all works out for us in the end. And the problem is that's the direct opposite message of everything else in the New Testament, and particularly the life of Jesus. Mike wanted to be able to say, let's focus on the hope. And my response was, the word hope doesn't even appear in Revelation. It's not even there. How can we talk about hope when it's not even there? But the parameters around Revelation are an authentic hope, whether it says the word or not.
Right. Exactly.
So do we hope for the exact opposite of what Jesus has been about? He invaded sinners' homes. He walked among them. He touched them. They touched him. He gave them value. He put his life into them, not the sinners who destroyed him, the sinners that everybody in good religion hated and looked down on. Jesus was there for them.
Right.
And then all of a sudden Revelation is, no, he's going to sweep all them away. I just, that's what I had such a hard time getting my brain to say, wait a minute, maybe all the experts missed the point because they didn't let Revelation speak for itself.
Right.
And that's hard. That is really hard mentally. That is exhausting to do when everyone has a view.
Right.
And I'm trying to formulate a new foundation for the house that's already up. That's what's so hard. So that's one of the principles that we really want to focus on today. And we're not going to belabor it forever, but this project really came out of letting Revelation speak for itself. Right. And behind that is letting Jesus speak for himself.
Exactly.
The struggle is, and I understand not everybody in the world is going to be able to do this, but some of you who are watching this video podcast, whether it's in 2022 or years from now, it's going to be up there for a while, is, do you just give in your thinking, your own listening, because someone else discovered something? Even this, I'm not saying believe what we're saying or what our book is about, our project, just because we say it.
Right.
What I'm saying is push back on that. Do your own discovery. Ask your own questions. Ponder for a while. And you might not be able to come up with an answer to some of your questions for a year or 10 years. I've been working at this project more than 20 years, and that's okay. It's really hard to think truly great thoughts that don't come out of a microwave. Some
Right.
things just have to bake for a really long time, and there's
Right.
no other way to do it
Right.
than to take the time to let that happen. That's what we're
Right.
really advocating for. If you're going to let Revelation speak for itself, read it through, read it through, read it through again, read it through again. Every time somebody tries to set up a silo, knock it down. Every time somebody says, I know for absolute sure this is what it means, blow it away and think, pray, ponder, examine, let it speak for itself. That's how we came up with this project. And it is hard work to do.
Right. Right. I think that whole aspect of understanding the dynamic and the holistic aspect of who Jesus is, if you read it in that manner of reading Revelation and let it speak for itself, then it doesn't become siloed. It doesn't become uh, a puzzle master where you're pulling pieces together. That whole aspect of revealing and revelation of who Jesus is clear through from the beginning of Genesis to the end. And if what we do is then kick one piece out that says, well, no, this is really about crushing everybody that's evil. We know that evil is going to be judged. That's never an issue. Okay, that we get that. But from the standpoint of what so much is going on in our world right now, um, in the unfortunately the dynamic of redescribing and redefining certain aspects of Christianity, that you have to be a certain way, do a certain thing, you need this, you need that, you must, you ought, you should, which are, you know, four words that we endeavor not to use. Uh, that's just not the Jesus that's there.
Here's one of the really scary things. People, young people in particular, are done with church. The
Right.
church, not the church of Jesus, the church of the modern 21st century
Exactly.
Christianized America. It's got smoke machines, it's got laser lights, it's got incredible music, it's rock and roll, it's classic hymns, pipe organs, it's got all that stuff. And the question is, if you look at Jesus, did he do most of what he did inside the temple or the synagogue? What he did was he blew those things apart whenever he
Right.
was there. He
Right.
troubled people's minds. He countered everything they expected. He brought in the wrong people. They threw him out. And if you look at Jesus and let him speak for himself, you find that what the modern American church has become, I don't think Jesus would stay 10 minutes sitting in a pew or
Yeah.
one of the padded chairs with his cup holder, because he blew out of those organizations.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
what makes this so dangerous, because
Right.
people are saying people are leaving the church in droves. They're not coming back. And what do we do to get them back? And the answer is go out with them.
Right.
Get out. Don't sit in. The church is not about come in, we'll close the doors, and we get to count you and your money. The
Right.
issue is blow the church apart, let them go out of business. This is really tough because my whole life, and Mike's too, has been devoted to building the church, but not the organizational church, not the
Exactly.
system of what we
Exactly.
call the commercial church.
Right.
It is the living community of Jesus
Jesus
that
Christ.
does not happen in a building.
Right. Right.
And that's really what this project is tied to, is
Right.
get your thinking out of what everyone says is right and let the Bible, let Revelation, let Jesus speak for themselves. And that is emotionally, that is really hard to do.
And that's why we're doing what we're doing, folks. We've already been accused of all kinds of interesting things along the way, of trying to make lots of money and so on. If you knew either one of us, that's very funny. And but the bottom line is that I believe, and I can say this for Mike, that we believe that what God is doing in the church right now in America is a shaking that's so profound, but it's happening. We want to give a tool that people can engage in conversation about who Jesus is. And we believe that's why this project is so important, and why at this time, at this place in history, the Lord's allowed Michael particularly to view this in a whole different way, if nothing else, to stir the pot to a point of where let's have some real dialogue about who Jesus really is and how does this work, and what am I missing here? And let's dig into this and figure this out. And
So
that is
one
our
of
hope.
yeah, and one of the we really need to end this podcast and probably do another one on this.
Yeah.
But one of the realities is when Jesus speaks about those who are wealthy and powerful and polished and at the top of their game, and then he speaks about the poor and the outcast. It's amazing. People who drive around in fancy cars, live in wonderful homes, have 3 full meals a day plus snacks, present themselves as, I'm such a victim. I'm so wounded. I'm really one of the poor of the world. It's like, come on, get off of that. It's just like absolutely not true. I think Revelation was written for the wealthy. It's the message of Jesus to the glitterati and the upper class, in addition to those who are broken and disconsolate and outcast. And the question then is, if Revelation speaks for itself, can God also bring the message to those who aren't at the bottom of the world, but are at the top of the world? That goes against everything the church is saying, but we love to lie about it and say, we're not really at the top. We're really at the bottom.
Right.
That's part of this incredible struggle, but we better leave that because that is a huge topic.
And I just wrote it down. We'll come back to it.
We're not going to solve it today, but I'll tell you, this is all wrapped up in how is God communicating himself? How does God reveal Jesus to everyone in the world? Top, bottom, middles, inside, outside. That's what I think the book of Revelation is actually about. Not the mark of the beast, not the end of the world, not the role of Satan, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's about that. I think it reveals Jesus Christ as he actually really is to the entire world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening, because we'll come back to that. So again, we are launching the book Experience of Revelation May 3rd. Book form.
The launch is actually going to be 3 days, May 3, 4, and 5, a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And what we want is to have people that are interested buy the book, buy the ebook, listen to the audio. We got incredible stuff that's going to be in the part of the launch, and leave a review or a comment, because that will actually help this thing grow.
Right.
That's really what we're about.
So we're glad to be with you. So this is Mike from the West Coast.
And Mike from the East Coast. Yep.
You guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.